when we talk about the big banks, we know how they are systemically important and too big to fail, and there's a lot of debate around what exactly the definition of a big bank is now and which ones are systemically important and which ones are not, which I suspect we'll find out in the coming weeks here. But what is important to understand about the smaller banks out there is that they drive a lot of the borrowing that occurs. So banks smaller than the top 25. So we're not talking about SVB here. We're not talking about First Republic. Those are all, I believe, in the top 25 banks in the nation in terms of deposits. We are talking about smaller ones that everybody knows in their neighborhood and things along those lines. They accounted for about 38% of all outstanding loans. And especially in the commercial space, they account for 67% of commercial real estate lending, which I could go in a few different ways there. But obviously from a perspective of if these banks went under, it would dry up a lot of credit. And even if they don't go under, it's probably already drying up a lot of credit because deposits are leaving these banks right now. That's what we talk about when we talk about financial conditions tightening.
And to just give you an idea of the banks that fall into this category in New England. Okay,
in the smaller banks category.
The smaller banks category. The one that does not fall into that category is Citizens.
Yeah.
Citizens Bank is the 13th largest bank by deposits in the country.
Yeah.
$182 billion. Okay. When we got to go all the way down, the 46th biggest bank in the country, Northern Trust, $50 billion bank. Yeah. Okay. Other ones in the Northeast that fall into this category, this isn't real. I don't know. I guess maybe this is more of a Northeast thing. TD Bank?
Yeah, I mean, they have a big name
here. It's a subsidiary of another, but that's a $30 billion bank in the U.S. Who else do we have here? I'm going through trying to find ones that are based in the Northeast. I'm down to number 100 and still not finding anything. Oh, here we go. 91. Eastern Bank.
Yep.
$19 billion in deposits. Mm-hmm. Those are the kinds of banks that we're talking about. Rockland Trust, $16 billion in deposits. Now we're getting into them, as we get to around 100 or so. But those are the kinds of banks that we're talking about. Now, as I noted, not many of those in that top 100 are in the Northeast. And the reason why, when we talk about that growth engine, the growth engine for the United States is not small business lending in the Northeast or small bank lending in the Northeast.
Right.
It's, again, you go
Sun
through
Belt, Texas.
You read some of these other names that are out there, and maybe you've heard of these, maybe you haven't. Valley National Bank, Frost Bank, Raymond James, based out of Tampa Bay, Pacific Western Bank, Bank of Hawaii. I mean, again, it's not stuff that's around here that is the key driving force.
And so dual impact here. One, if these smaller banks are losing deposits, which Bank of America basically confirmed that they were since they took in $15 billion of deposits over the last week, combined with the fact that we haven't even gotten into the commercial real estate space, but they hold 67% of commercial real estate lending that's out there. There are a couple ways in which these small banks could be in for a further rough road ahead.